A beautiful relationship. The relationship between father and son is as old as the world, and their friendship is incredibly sincere. I have heard this many times that history repeats itself. However, David experienced this in practice when he reached the market located on Nicholson Road in his city. His little son James was also with him, holding his finger. He would jump step by step and pull the fingers of his father's hand with both his hands. His father was generously fulfilling all the small requests of his son. Suddenly, he remembered something and started smiling. He went back 30 years in his imagination. After some time, they were standing in one of those toy shops. David was in a state of pleasant surprise. He came out of the world of imagination when James asked, "Father, what is the reason for your smile and unusual happiness on your face?" "I will tell you after dinner tonight, you must remind me." His father replied. James also promised to remind him. Having freed themselves from buying toys, both father and son went to the grocery store to buy rations for the house. David suddenly felt something pleasant again, and he smiled. James asked, "Father, what is the matter now?" His father loved James and said, "This is also a continuation of what I have to tell you at night." After taking a dry ration, father and son reached the respective shop to buy fruits and vegetables. David greeted the shopkeeper. He looked at him and then looked at James, and the same smile spread on his lips as James had seen twice already. This time James' curiosity and indecisiveness increased. He said, "Father, is this also a continuation of the same incident you will tell at night?" David looked at James with loving eyes, praised his intelligence, and said, "Yes, son. This smile and happiness are also a good continuation of the same thing." Now James' indecision had reached its peak. "You know what, I wanted to know the end of this story." After completing the shopping, both father and son came home. David went to his room to rest. James was busy playing with his new toys but did not forget the incident in the market and the promise of his father. After dinner, his father went to offer prayer. After he left, little James was waiting for him impatiently along with his mother. His mother was also eager to hear this wonderful and happy story. The hours of waiting ended and David said, "Son, as soon as you and I arrived at the market today and the sequence of our shopping and wandering that followed, it was exactly like a shopping spree done by a father and son 30 years ago. It was as if history was repeating itself. Everything else was the same, only the roles were changed. In this episode, the boy who was the son was now in the role of the father, and a new character who was added was the son, and you know who he was? James, who was a very intelligent and present-minded child, immediately got to the bottom of the matter. He said, "Yes, of course, father. 30 years ago, you were in the role of a son, and your grandfather was in the role of a late father. And today's incident was in a new role." David spontaneously praised James' personality and said, "Exactly like this, I used to pass in front of the toy shops holding the hand of my father. Just like you, I used to pull his fingers and stop him from taking toys. They also used to bring me toys like the ones I brought you today." James' curiosity was not over yet. He immediately asked the next question, "And what pleasant feeling did you have at the grocery store? What was the reason for this?" David said, "The matter was the same here too, only the roles had changed. At that time, the grocery store was run by his father's friend, Tony, and today his son Stephen runs it. Today, the shopkeeper's place was taken by his son. And the customer's son was also standing in the customer's place. When we reached the vegetable and fruit shop, the case was the same there too, except that the characters were replaced by their sons. All these incidents were a reflection of 30 years ago. James' mother was surprised to hear David's conversation and said, "Indeed, this relationship between father and son is as old as the world, and their friendship is very sincere. We should be grateful to be a part of this beautiful chain of history. Every father is the son of his father. And every son is the father of his son. These coincidences of history come in the lives of lucky people." While listening to these beautiful words, tears came into everyone's eyes. These were tears of joy and gratitude. David and James' mother prayed for a better future for their son and loved him very much. James thanked God for blessing him with such kind parents. He then requested his father and mother to promise that they would always fulfill his expectations. After David finished telling the story of his childhood shopping trip with his father to James, they both sat in silence for a few moments. Then James spoke up, "Father, it is amazing that you and your father had such a wonderful relationship. I hope we can have the same kind of bond as the years go by." David smiled and put his arm around James. "We already have a wonderful relationship, son. You and I have our own special bond that is unique to us. And I hope that, as you grow up, we can continue to build on that bond and make it even stronger." James smiled back at his father, feeling a warm and happy glow inside. He knew that his father loved him very much and that they had something special that not every father and son had. And he felt grateful for that. As they sat there together, David thought about how important it was to build strong relationships with his children and to pass on the lessons and memories that he had learned from his father. He knew that as James grew up and had his children, he too would pass on these memories and lessons to the next generation, continuing the beautiful chain of history that had brought them to this moment.